My name is Larry Woods. I'm the Emergency Management Director for the county. And a little about myself, I've been with the county now for 24 years. I've been in public safety for 38 years um, in all fields. I started out in EMS, moved to law enforcement, moved into, I was the 911 director in Laclede County for 5 years. Then I got into emergency management and I have a smattering of fire service scattered through in there as well. So I don't know how to do anything else, which is unfortunate around the house because wife would really like me to do other things that are a little more, uh, you know, helpful there. But nonetheless, I've got a little bit of a presentation this morning to tell you about emergency management because I hear that's what you guys want to know about. And there it is. All right, we're good to go. So our office, really, for those of you that don't know, the Office of Emergency Management has been around since about 1952. Back in those days, we weren't emergency management; we were civil defense, and we were more focused on things like nuclear war and the Cold War and all that kind of stuff, and less about weather and natural hazards and all the other stuff that we're focused on nowadays. However, it kind of seems as if the way the world is going, we're beginning to start to focus back on Cold War era type stuff again. So we're always, what did I just did something wrong? No, I did. Okay, we're good. All right. So our mission is to do our best to make Greene County the most disaster resilient community in America. And I know that sounds like a very lofty goal, but we like lofty goals in our office. And so that's pretty much everything we do when we come in at 7:30 in the morning is focused on that mission. Of course, we live over at the Public Safety Center. Our main function is more managerial on a day-to-day basis, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But our job is to try and reduce the community's vulnerabilities to the hazards that we've identified that could impact Greene County and its municipalities. And we do that through several different ways. Collaboration and coordination is our mainstay. We spend a lot of time working with other agencies, other organizations, other municipalities to accomplish our mission on a daily basis. And frankly, without these collaboration efforts, what we do just wouldn't work. Okay. We do a lot of planning and preparedness, which we'll talk about, strategic operations. And the reason I say strategic is because we're not the folks that are in the field putting the fire out. We're not the ones digging people out of rubble or, taking down the bad guys or all of that. We're the folks in the back working on the big strategies with the elected officials or department heads to try and get the community back on track again after a large scale emergency or disaster. And then, of course, recovery coordination is a huge part of what we do post disaster to get the community back to where it needs to be. We've got 5 mission areas that we focus on. Prevention and protection. Prevention is mainly focused at terrorism, counterterrorism type operations. Again, we're not the guys that are out arresting the bad guys or taking down the terrorist cells or anything like that. We're more the guys that are passing the information on, getting the intelligence that comes through, analyzing it, trying to figure out who this information needs to go to, and then they will take the actions that are needed to deal with that. The protection element or mission is that's where we do a lot of our preparedness activities. That's where we're out in the public, and we're working with organizations and groups to get them to understand, hey, this is how I prepare for the next disaster, whether it's a tornado, a flood, an explosion, whatever it may be. This is how I try and prepare for it. Mitigation are those things that we do to try and prevent disasters from happening to begin with. Obviously, if you can prevent them, then you don't have to do anything else. Things like tornadoes, we're not going to prevent a tornado. but we can try and take actions to lessen their impacts, right? So if you can lessen the impact to the community, then things aren't as bad whenever they do happen. So, response, that's the easy one. Everybody understands response. I'll talk a little bit about our function in that, and then of course recovery is us getting the community or working to get the community back in shape again after the disaster. We really have three core responsibilities. Planning, we have two planning staff. One of our planners focuses on our area municipalities and two school districts. And then our other planner focuses on the city of Springfield and the county plans. We have right now around well, just the core plans that we work on there's about 6 of them, but these are multi-hundred-page plans. And so you can imagine the amount of updates and things that we have to do to keep those plans going on a regular basis. It's how they do it is it's mind-numbing, actually. The other thing is their Emergency Operations Center. We're responsible for the readiness and the activation of the Emergency Operations Center. And what the Emergency Operations Center is and does is it is a focal point during a disaster or a community-wide emergency. We bring the key decision makers and the key leaders in to focus the strategic response efforts for that disaster, whatever it is. Okay. Again, the people that are in this building are not the people that are digging people out of rubble and all that. They're working with those people to develop strategies and plans to be able to deal with whatever's in front of us. We never have enough resources, ever. We never have enough fire trucks. We never have enough sandbags. We never have enough dump trucks. So it's the folks in this building and in this operations center that decide who gets what, where, and when, and what are the priorities to get us back up and running again. And it gets pretty tense sometimes because everybody wants everything right now, and you can't give everybody everything right now. And so we have to do the best we can, and we rely on our leadership to make those key decisions and point us in the right direction. And we just go out and make the magic happen for them. So, and then training and exercise development. I talked about, us developing all these plans. Well, plans are only good if they work, right? So we have to exercise, drill, and test these plans. So we have a staff member, and his entire mission in life is to take the plans that we develop and put them through their paces to make sure they're actually going to work. And if we find hiccups or we find areas that need improvement, we go back, we retool, we change the plans to make them work and fit our needs. So we've response, as I said, is kind of the easy one. That's the one that everybody kind of understands. But what you may not know is in Greene County, we've identified 30 hazards that we are susceptible to. Now, are all those hazards something that we see every day? No, absolutely not. But, flooding is our number one hazard here. I don't know if you guys know that, but we flood a lot around here. And, nobody ever thought that we would witness a worldwide pandemic, but yet it's a hazard in our plan, right? And we did it. We did have to go through that. So we've got all these hazards that we've identified, and we have plans that address all these individual hazards. And believe it or not, most plans that we write, we do all hazards planning. So most of the plans that we write, if you respond to flooding, you're going to similarly respond to a tornado. So a lot of the way that we respond to these things is the same across the board. Now, some are a little different. There's little tweaks here and there, but for the most part, most responses go the same way. So let's move on. We do have a watch officer program. So we have a total of 10 staff, including myself, and we have staff members that we call them operations officers, and we have 2 people on call 24/7. We have a watch manager and a watch officer, and their job is to monitor events that are going on 24/7 in the county. So if something was to happen, then immediately the watch officer is going to start taking action if needed. They'll bring the watch manager up to speed. If it can be handled by the watch officer at that level, then we're good to go and we're done. If not, the watch manager will get involved and start elevating the response, whatever it needs to be. If we need to call in additional staff, if we need to partially activate the emergency operations center, whatever needs to happen, that's kind of how it goes. And we're not just watching because we're responsible for not only unincorporated Greene County, but we are also responsible for the city of Springfield as well. So we kind of have a big area and a lot of people that we oversee as far as the community goes. Community preparedness, we were really blessed to get approved for a community outreach person this past year, which is something we've really never had, and we've struggled with it for the 24 years I've been here. And now this person's entire focus and mission in life is just to go into the community, work with people groups, work with partner organizations to provide preparedness information and get the word out on how to prepare for the next big disaster, whatever it may be. We have a community emergency response team program, which is part of our volunteer corps, and these folks are just fellow citizens that take a 24-hour training course that teaches them everything from basic search and rescue, basic firefighting techniques, first aid, those things that you would need to know post-disaster, with the whole goal of being able to go out into their neighborhood, help their neighbors, and then eventually help the community in a disaster situation. And we use them quite often. Search and rescue. We've had several situations where we've had lost persons, in not just here but in other counties, and we'll send our team out to assist those other communities to try and locate those folks. Okay, now let's get to the really good part, because I could stand up here and talk all day and not really answer any questions that you may have. So that being said, what questions does everybody have about emergency management I didn't answer or didn't address, that you guys just have wondered the entire time you've been with the county? Yes, sir.
So with the event yesterday with the police shooting, is there anything, it was a pretty big response, it was over 100 people response, would your office be involved in that coordination of that event and things like that?
We weren't. However, we have been involved with sheriff's department's responses in the past. If that had been a situation where the subject would have been barricaded, the evacuations that occurred would have went on longer, then we probably would have gotten involved, simply because, if you've got people that are forced out of their homes for a period of time, not all of them are going to have somewhere to go. So, they can't just go to a neighbor's house or relatives or whatever necessarily. So we would potentially help with that. Other things that most of our staff all of our staff actually are highly trained in incident management skills. We spend well over 200 hours in training just in incident management capabilities. So we could go in and assist in a command post role where we're helping the incident commander to manage the incident, because there's a lot of roles that need to be put in place for a long-term incident like that. So those are things that we could do that would assist them. Absolutely. Luckily, thankfully, the officer that was shot is going to be fine and everything's good there. And thankfully, nobody else was hurt. And that, the whole thing got, rectified in just a few hours. So. What else? Yes, sir.
Larry, let's suppose school day, we get hit with a Joplin type tornado. What does your office do immediately? How do you spring into action?
Prior to the tornado even coming, the first thing we're going to have activated is our watch center. So we talked about the emergency operations center. Also downstairs in the basement of the EOC is a watch center. So it's just a singular room. It's probably the room we use the most in response efforts. So we should already have a crew in-house monitoring the weather. Okay, so that's the very first thing that's going to happen. Once the weather or once the tornado happens, the incident occurs, the next thing that's going to happen is the watch manager is going to contact me if they haven't already, and then we're going to make a decision. Do we activate the emergency operations center, to whatever level it needs to be activated? Joplin style event, that would be a full scale activation just because of the magnitude. Once that occurs, we send out a notification via an automated system that we have to all of the leadership personnel and department heads that we would need to come to the emergency operations center, and then they would start filtering in. We would provide briefings to the elected officials, to the department heads that needed to be briefed, and then at such time, the policymakers would then start providing us with objectives that we need to meet in the emergency operations center. So we would look to the leadership to say, look, we need XYZ to happen by 6 o'clock, or we need this to happen, because we would take those objectives, that information, take it down to the folks in the main floor. They would start working with their counterparts in the field to make them happen. If for whatever reason they say, look, I cannot get this road opened up by 6 o'clock tonight, I don't have the resources to do it. I could maybe get it done by 6 a.m. in the morning. Then my job would be to come back to the decision makers and say, look, here's our options. And then I get provided more information, and that's how we manage the incident as we go through. Because the goal is, the decision makers set the pace, set the tone, set the objectives, and then the folks in the operations center itself, make those things happen, whatever those things are. We provide, and it's my job to provide the decision makers with the information that they need to come up with the decisions they need to make, hopefully, with the best information we have at the time. And then I take it back to our staff in the emergency operations center, and they start working the problems, whatever they are. So that's kind of how it goes. So,
That's why all the training, I suppose.
a lot of training. So a lot of exercises. What else? Yes, ma'am.
Can you describe one of the instances that you have been employed and gone outside of our community to help others, and what your role was in those incidents?
Sure. For many years, up until November of last year, when my knees just got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore, I was assigned to a incident management team with the Department of Health and Human Services at the federal level. I was on that team for about 18 years. In that time, I responded to 15 type 1 incidents, which are the highest level of incident you can respond to. Most of those being hurricanes, because you can imagine you get a really big hurricane that hits the coast and affects multiple states. It's kind of bad. My team specifically, because we were with the Department of Health and Human Services, my team was specifically dealing with public health and medical related issues, as opposed to like a FEMA team that would be more broad in nature. We were more concerned with hospitals, clinics, dialysis, those types of mental health, those kinds of things. My specific role on the team was I was a planning section chief mentor. So the planning section, we like to think of the planning section as being the most important section, but it's really not. Every section feels like they're the most important section, right? So my job, whenever I would deploy out, I would have an entire section of personnel. Those personnel could be people like me that were intermediate employees that weren't full-time. They just got activated whenever something happened, or I could be in charge of a U.S. Public Health Service commander, who is a full-time employee of Health and Human Services. I could be in charge of a scientist or a pharmacist that worked for the CDC that did this on the side as part of their duties. some of the things that my last mission that I responded to was in February of 2020. I was deployed to the University of Nebraska, where we were charged with converting two 747 cargo jets into passenger jets, sending them over to Tokyo, Japan, offloading a cruise ship full of U.S. citizens that were stuck in the harbor there, all with, well, some with COVID, some not showing symptoms of COVID. Transporting them from Tokyo, dropping one set off in California, and then bringing the rest of them to the University of Nebraska. And at the University of Nebraska, they have it's one of a very few numbers of hospitals in the United States that have high-level specialty biohazard care facilities. So I had the I was fortunate to be able to interact with COVID, be one of the first persons to interact with COVID whenever it first came to the United States. I brought it to the United States. You're welcome. So, but interestingly, I got sick, and literally where I was working was just on the other side of the wall from where what we call the slammer was, which is the containment unit where the actual COVID patients were located. And I got sick while I was there. And I was very happy to just stay in my room. I was back at my hotel. It's freezing cold in Nebraska in February, by the way. And you think it's cold here. Man, it's cold in Nebraska. And I'd been in my room for like 24 hours, and I was fine. I wasn't feeling great, but I wasn't bad. And I got a call from my operations chief, and her and I had deployed many times before. And it's never good when you answer the phone and the first thing she says is, "Don't shoot the messenger." And I'm like, this is not good. She said, here's what's going to happen. Command has decided that you need to go to the hospital and get checked out. So in 15 minutes, I need you to get up and get ready. In 15 minutes, there's going to be a white SUV downstairs in front of your hotel. The back door will be open. You will have, there's going to be an N95 respirator mask on the seat. You'll be driven by a U.S. Public Health Service commander who will be all decked out in, gear. He's going to take you to the hospital, and they're going to, get you in. And true to her word, in 15 minutes, I was downstairs. There was an SUV. The door was open. There was a mask on the seat. And they took me to the ER. And first time in my life, I never had to wait in line at the emergency room. I went straight on back to a room. And they swabbed everything they could swab. And they ran a 20-panel assay on me. And it turns out I had a cold. So, hey, good on me for that. I had a cold. I went back to my room for, another night, and I was back at work the next day. But yeah, it was quite it was a different kind of deployment for me. But the rest of them, I've deployed to Hawaii for hurricanes. I was in Puerto Rico in 2017 for the big hurricanes there for about a month. I spent Thanksgiving in Puerto Rico that year. So it was I learned a lot by being able to go to other people's disasters and bring that knowledge and information back here. I learned a lot about what to do and what not to do. And we encourage, at least in our office, there's a lot of teams that, even just in the state and in the region, and we have always encouraged our staff, if they want to participate in those teams, to do so, because it's good training, it's good experience, and they can bring the knowledge that they gain from other people's disasters back here to use, hopefully not, but when we have our next one. So I don't know how we are on time. I could talk all day, but yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry. Typically, the decision makers, we call them the policy group. Okay, for obvious reasons. They're not all elected officials. Okay. Obviously, the chief elected officials of the both the city and the county or who I would deal with during an EOC activation, because they're the ones who've been elected by the people to represent them. But however, certain department heads are as needed as whether it's the sheriff, whether it's the public health director, whether it could be even NGOs. It could be the director of the Red Cross. It could be the director of the Salvation Army. These are all different people that we would consult with to provide us with different perspectives and objectives to be able to respond to the event, whatever it is. So
She's really nervous now. We have that.
shouldn't be. It's all good. Yes, sir.
You deal with a lot of departments, whether it be the city, the county, fire departments, police departments. You all appear to do a really good job of that, getting along and maintaining relationships in a pretty high stress environment. What is it that really makes that work for you?
Well, I think as far as the collaboration part, I think it's just open communication. We don't always succeed, but we really try our best to get out there and really, meet and greet. And matter of fact, I'm going to kind of start a deal here where I'm going to go out, to the fire departments on a regular basis, meet with the chiefs and really get, and even the police chiefs in the municipalities to really make sure that we're on the same page. And, we always have this kind of saying in emergency management: the first time you meet somebody is not during a disaster. You want to know them ahead of time. That's why we put a lot of emphasis on exercises and drills and things like that, because that's when we're going to find the problems, and we want to work those problems out with the right individuals ahead of time before the actual disaster happens. So that, I think, is that open communication piece on collaboration is incredibly important. But I think emergency management, one of our big issues is that we have to be able to be flexible. And I'm not a flexible person as a rule. And how I lasted in this business for this long is amazing to me. But you have to be able to roll with the punches. And because no matter when you get into an EOC environment or you get into a disaster environment, we have plans, we have processes, procedures, but they're never no two floods are the same. No two tornado events are the same. No two disasters are ever the same. And so you may start down the road and you get your plan and it's like, going like clockwork. And then the next thing you know, this happens. Okay, well, all right. We don't have a policy or a plan for that. We're going to punt on this one. We're going to make it happen. So you've really got to be able to kind of roll with the punches and just kind of deal with what's in front of you. I said I'm not very flexible, but a former director, he used to say that when we had a disaster, he could always tell because it was like a switch gets flipped in my brain, and I go into he calls it Larry mode, and I am laser focused on getting the mission done, whatever that mission is. And he said a lot of times, I didn't ask how you got it done. I was just happy you did. And so that's, I guess that's where my flexibility comes in, is when the switch flips, I get flexible, I guess. I don't know. What else? We're done? Okay. Well, thank you all very much for having us.